boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. The latest from the desk of Ali Akhmedov Promotions, who say, Belouza Muzdiman, participant of Promotion Fight Night Tournament, Belouza is the holder of the UBO version of the champion title and is ready to prove that she deserves the belt. The date, time, and place are already known. Now, the most important thing is to know the name of the boxer who is going against her in the ring.
UBO? The fuck is the UBO?
Well, there are a good number of alphabet organizations that you don't hear about, lesser known ones like the UBO, the WBF, having quote-unquote world titles of their own, though as you can imagine, fighting for those alphabet titles as opposed to the major four doesn't get you the same attention.
Belouza Muzdiman sports an unblemished record of 9 wins with no losses and no draws, 7 knockouts. I've seen her, and she's actually good. Really good. You can see that this is a well-schooled boxer. The issue is her opponents.
And the trajectory of her boxing career, to her credit, not being with a major promotional outfit, she managed to fight 3 times last year and 3 times this one, so she's keeping a good and active schedule of fights in spite of not being with a Matchroom or an MVP.
Campaigning in the women's bantamweight division, where currently Shernika Johnson holds all the alphabet titles and Denmark's Stina Thorsland holds the Ring Magazine title. Belouza is not ranked by 3 of the major 4 organizations. The only one of the alphabets where her name appears is via the WBA, where Belouza ranks in at number 2, just behind America's own Brittany Sims.
So Belouza is set to fight very soon under the Ali Akhmedov Promotions banner. She's already fought under that banner before. She's set to do it again against an opponent that has yet to be announced, though pouncing on random Indian girls,
like the last one she fought, Mamta Singh.
It might be good for adding knockouts to the highlight reel, but in the greater scheme of things, these fights and these knockouts are still happening very low on the radar. And until Belouza fights for alphabet titles, recognizable ones, against recognizable opponents, she will stay on the outskirts, out there on the fringe. And I'm telling you, she's good. She's very good. You can see that this is a well-schooled boxer, but how good?
We ain't gonna know until she fights somebody good. Somebody else who brings something else to the table, because right now, she's used to having it all her way.
Bantamweight division is actually a really deep division with a lot of good fighters in it. Almost immediately, Rihanna Rios, unbeaten from the United States. Amanda Gaye of Canada. Reina Telez.
These are good fighters, like Belouza Muzdiman is a good fighter. Now, I would recommend that as she is progressing and still developing as a fighter, you get her a former champion. Nina Hughes ranks in at number 7. I think this is the ideal fight for Belouza Muzdiman in the coming calendar year. She can fight whoever she's gonna fight in her next fight, but at some point next year, I would like to see her against a former champion, a good one, and Nina Hughes fits that bill. She's a handful if you ain't got the tools.
Well-schooled fighter herself, albeit a bit up there in age, the ideal acid test for an unbeaten up-and-comer like Belouza Muzdiman. Listen, she's about to fight. I don't know who against, but in all likelihood, it's going to be another overmatched opponent. It's all right to fight opponents like that at the start of your career, but as you progress, as you enter into that 10-0 bracket, that 15-0 bracket, you got to step it up. Otherwise, you're just a showcase fighter fighting in an endless assortment of showcase fights. Belouza's good, but how good? We'll never know.
Not until she fights somebody who's good.
Men's welterweight news. Reactions are still pouring into what's supposed to be the Ryan Garcia versus Mario Barrios fight set to go down next year, which I talked about in my previous video, allowing us to segue into another segment of the Ring IQ mailbag. A guy who goes by the name Jalisco, 93, said, "Oh my god, Sulaiman Sissoko, Shakram Gayasov, oh shit, let me cancel my Saturday plans to watch them."
I'm detecting a tinge of sarcasm.
Nobody gives a fuck about those motherfuckers. They should fight each other for the Zuffa belt. This particular comment was in opposition of my suggestion that the alphabet organizations are responsible for the stagnant welterweight division that just isn't as exciting.
The cream's not being allowed to rise to the top because fighters are being protected.
When a Suleiman Sissoko gets passed over not once but twice by an aged Manny Pacquiao and now an undeserving Ryan Garcia, Suleiman Sissoko, who in all likelihood would beat Mario Barrios, Shakram Gayasov, who in all likelihood would beat Rolly Romero.
The cream is not being allowed to rise to the top, and yes, those fighters are not as well known as either Ryan or Rolly, but how are they supposed to be if they can't get the big fights and the alphabet organizations are a party to that? Who was Gennady Golovkin before he started pouncing on guys and beating guys up? Who was Artur Beterbiev? Who was Dmitry Bivol?
Of course you don't know who the fuck they are. Of course they're not as well known as Ryan or Rolly, because they're being suppressed. While those fighters are being protected,
The Sissokos and Giasovs of the world are being alienated. And that's not a good thing. I don't know why anybody would advocate for this brazen chicanery. Oh, I see. You would rather watch Ryan.
that's what you're saying.
You'd prefer that the world title opportunity go to him because at least you know him since he's so popular. And on the premise of that popularity, he deserves a shot more than the guy who's been fighting in the eliminators and paying the sanctioning fees. Even when Ryan's coming off a loss, in your mind, he deserves it more.
And if that's how your mind works, well, you're fucking stupid. I noticed that his name is Jalisco.
Isn't that a place south of the border?
It is. This is another guy that's towing the line on the premise of La Raza. Tribalism, as it were, on the predication of Ryan Garcia's would-be Mexican descent. Except that Ryan is about as Mexican as a falafel. That is what motivates this brazen partiality. Never mind what's right and wrong, and being promoted to a world title opportunity based on merit.
No, you should be promoted to that based on how much you have in common with Jalisco.
And how many Instagram followers you have, as that seems to be the driving current for Ryan Garcia's preferential treatment, even if it comes at the expense of the sport's integrity and the state at the weight. There's a reason everybody calls this welterweight division one of the weakest they've ever seen.
Partiality towards fighters like Ryan has a lot to do with that, but don't tell Jalisco.
Do they even pay for pay-per-views in Jalisco, south of the border? Because I was told that they don't, and if they don't,
Oh, well, that makes sense.
a lot of things make sense when you can distinguish who the actual customers are and who the customers aren't, because to Americans, to see Ryan Garcia, who's coming off a loss, and Mario Barrios, who's coming off a draw, it costs the American consumer in the neighborhood of $60. Should that be a pay-per-view?
No, it shouldn't, but if you're in Jalisco like this guy, it doesn't cost you anything. So you can come up with all sorts of kooky comments and make all sorts of stupid suggestions.
What he's basically advocating for is less sport and more popularity. That's the gist of it. Orion should get the shot because you at least know him.
Who gives a fuck what you know?
Gives a fuck what you like. You're making this about you and your own personal preferences. It's pretty obvious to anyone else with a functioning brain cell that Ryan Garcia has done absolutely nothing to earn a title shot in the welterweight division. By all rights, he hasn't actually fought a welterweight yet. And if the sanctioning bodies have to suppress other fighters and deprive them of their opportunities so that he can get one, the division isn't better for it, and the sport isn't better for it. Me and you are not better off having to pay $60 to watch these two bozos. But I forgot, you probably don't pay anything, which is why you're saying this.
You can easily distinguish who the customers are and who the customers aren't based on what they say.
Because when you don't pay for shit, you come up with all sorts of kooky ideas and suggestions.
In a related story, veteran content creator Punch Drunk Boxing said that Mario Barrios' manager should be praised. Barrios will headline his fourth pay-per-view, his teamwork wonders, and he don't even have to do shit on social media. Interviews, talk shit, nothing but fight, chill, and get big fights.
Well, that's one way to look at it, but another way to look at it is Mario's only getting all these big fights because of how beatable he is. It's the only reason Manny at his age was willing to come out of retirement and fight him and not somebody else. Not a Boots, not a Brian Norman, but he'll fight a Mario Barrios.
Off the couch.
And some years before that, didn't Keith Thurman do the exact same thing? He ended a 2-year stint of inactivity by fighting Mario Barrios. So when Mario is getting all these big fights with these big names. It's not down to his management and anything they're doing.
It's really down to how beatable he is. Everybody thinks they can beat him, so of course, there's a line around the block.
It really helps that he has an alphabet title.
Because all those guys on that line around the block think they can take it from him. So he's never going to run a shortage of opponent options. Consider what the alternative is. When fighters don't think you're beatable, when they think you're good, they think you're actually good.
Dangerous.
After Bakram Murtazaliev announced himself to the world by trashing Tim Tszyu in what was it, 3-4 rounds? Nobody wanted to fight him after that. It was established that he was many times better than people thought, than Tim Tszyu thought, than the boxing fans and the bookies who had him the underdog going in. As soon as they realized, holy shit, this guy's better than we thought, he couldn't find nobody to fight after that. For a year and a half, he hasn't been able to find an opponent. He just now managed to get a Josh Kelly fight.
And that's really only because the IBF ordered it. No champions have been in a hurry to unify with Bakram Murtazaliev. Very few contenders want to take his belt from him. At least, while the perception is that Bakram is actually pretty good, he's dangerous, they don't want to fight him.
Because they think he's actually good, whereas Mario, who they don't think is that good, everybody wants to fight him. Manny Pacquiao, Conor Ben, Ryan Garcia.
Everybody wants to fight him.
It's not down to his management, it's down to his lack of ability. It's down to people thinking Mario Barrios sucks, he's beatable, and if he's got a belt, I can take it from him. That's what it all boils down to. Nobody in the welterweight division is sat at the foot of their bed, biting their nails, worried that they might have to fight Mario Barrios. Comes to him, they come running.
I will fight you.
As will I. I as well. After them.
Girl, it's easy. He's never gonna struggle to get a date. Fighter that makes for an easy fight is never gonna struggle to get an opponent. Least of all, when he's got a belt. So no, Mario fighting in these quote-unquote big pay-per-views, some of which weren't actually all that big.
It's not down to his management. It's down to his lack of ability.
The Thurman pay-per-view was not actually big. Neither was the Manny Pacquiao pay-per-view. No one reported big numbers for either of those fights. In all honesty, the only pay-per-view that sort of moved the needle was the Gervonta Davis pay-per-view, but even that one wasn't really all that big. Just a little over 200,000 buys, if that.
Why do Americans act like just the act of being on pay-per-view makes it a big deal or makes it a success? The pay-per-view is only as big as how much it's sold.
Prograis versus Zepeda was a fucking pay-per-view. The upcoming Badu Jack versus Noel Mikhailian rematch. That's a pay-per-view.
Everything's a fucking pay-per-view these days, but that doesn't make it big. Pay-per-view's only as big and only as successful as how much it's sold.
Thurman versus Barrios didn't sell shit. Pacquiao versus Barrios didn't sell shit. Will he do better with Ryan? We'll see. That's down to Ryan's fans and whether or not they want to pay cash money to see him fight.
Because he's the one with all the fans. Big social media following.
We'll see what that social media following is worth. Once this fight is officially announced and they have it, we'll see how many people decided to buy it. Men's heavyweight news. UFC impresario Dana White alludes to Anthony Joshua ending Jake Paul, saying, "That's a bad idea." The bout between Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua was officially announced on Monday. The heavyweight contest is a professional 8-rounder with a 245-pound weight limit and will take place December 19th at the Kaseya Center in Miami on Netflix. Paul, 12-1 with 7 knockouts, was supposed to face Gervonta Davis in an exhibition over the weekend, but the meeting was canceled earlier this month once Davis faced a new round of domestic violence allegations. Joshua, 28-4 with 25 knockouts, a former 2-time unified heavyweight champion, emerged as the winner to fight Paul from a group of candidates that included Andre Ward, Francis Ngannou, Nate Diaz, Ryan Garcia, and Terrence Crawford. UFC and Zuffa Boxing CEO Dana White has had a cantankerous relationship with Paul, and he alluded that one of the greatest heavyweight fighters of the era could be the perfect person to end the novice's boxing career. Oh, Jesus, that's a bad idea. That's a bad idea, White told reporters. But let me tell you what, A lot of people will watch that one, sure. I'll watch. You know what everybody's tuning in for on that one? I think everybody's gonna get what they've finally been waiting for, and that is Jake Paul, unconscious, sprawled out on the canvas.
So many are focusing on the Anthony Joshua angle of this, the Anthony Joshua side of it, claiming that he's cashing out when it could be Jake that is cashing out. There are no more retired UFC fighters to pick on, and only a few in the sport of boxing that actually bring any marquee value to the table, so that when Jake decides to take a challenge like this on,
could be that he is approaching the end of his circus. Pay no mind to Jake Paul's expressed interest in becoming a world champion. That's just for show.
That's just the sales pitch. I don't think he's serious about that, because he's already making more money than many world champions in the sport of boxing. He's already making more money than every world champion at cruiser. The whole point of acquiring a world title is to build up your marquee value in the process of pursuing it, so you can start making big money. But Jake Paul is already there, all without an alphabet title, to where he doesn't really need one. So if he keeps harping about it,
it's just a sales pitch. Pay no mind to it, because if what Jake Paul really wanted were to fight for a full title, he would have gone about things differently. How was fighting Gervonta Davis going to bring him closer to a world title? Or the vast majority of fighters that he's fought, Nate Diaz, Ben Askren, Tyrone Woodley, in hindsight, do you really think it was a world title that he was after, or was that just him trolling boxing fans and selling himself as some sort of an attraction? This could be Jake Paul cashing out.
What if Anthony Joshua hits this guy harder than he's ever been hit? Breaks his ribs, breaks bone.
You know, he could put the fear of God in him if he makes him feel the power, to where Jake Paul may not want to endeavor into the world of boxing anymore. This is a very big fight, worth very big money, and you do have to wonder if this isn't Jake cashing out.
With the money that he makes from this and everything he's already made, that's more than enough to close out a boxing career. I think that his contemporary, KSI, another social media influencer, he's hung the gloves up. He doesn't box anymore. Maybe Jake is going in that direction, and this fight with Anthony will finance his retirement,
so he can go all in as a promoter full time, because he can still make money with that.
I don't know. I mean, do you think that MVP is a promotional outfit that is still relatively new, can stand on its own without Jake Paul's events to carry it, to fortify it? Questions that need answers.
If this is a real fight, then the expectation is that Anthony should kill him quick. And for Jake Paul, that is the best possible outcome. You don't want a sustained beating over several rounds.
That's actually a lot more damaging than getting knocked out quick in the first few.
Seeing people saying they think Anthony's the one cashing out, it could be Jake. He could be close to the end. How much longer was he going to be able to do this before things got serious and dangerous? At least here, he stands to make a vast sum of cash
for what could be 1 or 2 rounds.